A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. The Pharisees went and plotted to entrap Jesus in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him, along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and show deference to no one. For you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. Here ends the reading. Money, politics, and religion. The holy trinity of what not to talk about in polite company. Too personal, too divisive. Besides, people feel very strongly about these matters and don't want to be told what to do. But Jesus doesn't care about that. Nope, Jesus will go there, as he does in today's gospel. Which is to say that perhaps these are things that should be thought of from the vantage point of faith, from the vantage point of the biblical story. Today's text from Matthew's gospel includes some frequently quoted words of Jesus in response to the trick question from the Pharisees and the Herodians. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? To which Jesus famously replies, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." Not that anyone enjoys paying taxes, but to be clear, it's not simply taxes in general that are the issue here, but a particular tax. The Jews in first century Palestine paid a number of taxes. There was the temple taxes, land taxes, and customs taxes, just to name three. The tax in question, however, was a particularly burdensome and demeaning one. It was the imperial tax, paid as tribute to Rome to support the Roman occupation of Israel. Let's think about that for a moment. First century Jews were required to pay their oppressors a denarius a year to support their own oppression. And this also meant that the religiously devout, represented in today's gospel by the Pharisees and their disciples, had to pay the tax with a coin engraved with a picture of Caesar Tiberius on it and a proclamation of his divinity, causing them to break the first two commandments. All of which made the topic of the imperial tax tremendously divisive and one's opinion on it immediately revealing. So it is within this context that two groups that normally wanted little to do with each other declare a temporary truce in order to work together to trap Jesus. The Herodians derived their power from the Roman occupiers, while the Pharisees aligned themselves more closely with the occupied and oppressed common folk. The question they pose is a great one, asking Jesus whether it was lawful to pay imperial tax that funded Roman occupation. If Jesus answered one way, if he advocated paying this tax, he would disappoint his followers. If Jesus answered another way, if he advocated not paying this tax, he would be in trouble with the Roman rulers. Never a good spot to be in. So they have him trapped, or so they thought. But Jesus not only evaded their trap, he trapped them in their own question. "Whose face is on the coin?" Jesus asked. And his opponents forgot that by showing a coin with the emperor's image on it, they would betray their own complicity with the Roman system. "The emperor's," they answered. Everyone in attendance knew the commandments, and just like that, they knew that Jesus had just trapped those who had set a trap for him in their own blasphemy, according to Jewish law. All of this adding to the sting of Jesus' response. "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's. Suddenly, the tables are turned. And this is where Bob Dylan comes in. Yes, Bob Dylan. In doing some research for today's homily, I came across a reference to Dylan's Grammy Award-winning song from 1979's Slow Train Coming. Gotta Serve Somebody. I will resist doing my Bob Dylan imitation, but here are a few lines from the song. You may be an ambassador to England or France. You may like to gamble, you might like to dance. You may be the heavyweight champion of the world. You may be a socialite with a long string of pearls. But you're going to have to serve somebody. Yes, indeed. You're going to have to serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. Jesus made it absolutely clear who he served. I wonder if Jesus might also be talking to us, not trapping us, but inviting us to declare our allegiance to God. If so, maybe the key question here is not whose image is on the coin, but rather whose image is on us. Whose image is on our hearts? The first part of Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 reads, Then God said, Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness. Likeness. Icon. I-K-O-N. Is the word used in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of Genesis, and is also the word Matthew chooses. So a better translation of verse 20 in today's gospel might be, Whose likeness is this, and what title? I don't know how many of Jesus' audience would have caught that, but I suspect those listening closely to Jesus' word choice would have hearkened back to God's initial pronouncement and promise. We bear God's likeness, and because of that, we are made to be more than we sometimes realize. Which is worth pausing to let sink in. We were made in the image and likeness of God, and because we bear God's likeness, we are to act like God. Not like gods, not like those who use their authority over others for self-gain. No, we are to act like God, with a capital G, the one who creates and sustains and nurtures and redeems and saves. We are called to serve as God's agents, God's partners, God's co-creators and God's co-workers, exercising dominion over creation not as an act of power, but rather as an act of stewardship, extending to all the abundant life God wishes for all. There are elements in our lives that are indeed part of the world order and should be, quote, given to the emperor, as the text states. But there are other parts of our lives, our very selves, that belong to God alone. If we remember that, all of life can take on greater focus and meaning. We belong not to anything of this world. We belong to God. And this means that no matter what we may do or say, no matter where we may go, no matter what may happen to us, we are first and foremost God's own beloved children. And if we believe this and live this, it will shape what we say and do and how we live. But you're going to have to serve somebody. Yes, indeed. You're going to have to serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. Amen.